Hey friends, Ash here with Gents, and yeah, I'm a little bit sunburned. Spent a lot of time out in the sun today, so I'm starting to look like beef jerky. Awesome. Today I've got a video for all you Chads out there. Not Chads at a gentleman's journey, but just Chads, like the meme. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can Google it. But today I'm coming at you guys with 10 of the biggest compliment pulling fragrances of all time. I'm not saying that these are without a doubt the absolute top 10, but as far as designer fragrances go, these are 10 of the fragrance DNAs that have pulled some of the most compliments, that have been some of the most attention-grabbing fragrances ever. So with that out of the way, let's jump into this. I guess we'll just jump right into the list. No need for honorable mentions or anything like that. We'll start off with Giorgio Armani, Aqua de Joe. Yeah, the original Aqua de Joe, or Aqua de Joe Profumo, or even the newer Aqua de Joe Profundo, just Aqua de Joe in general, that line of fragrances. Aquatic notes, citrus, white florals, musk, some woods. That's the Aqua de Joe DNA. With Profumo, sprinkle in a little bit of incense, making it better for nighttime use or even fall or winter. With Profundo, take the Aqua de Joe DNA and modernize it. Give it some green touches here and there. Aqua de Joe, as pretty much all of you out there should be aware of, is one of the most tried, tested, and true attention-grabbing, compliment-pulling fragrance DNAs out there as far as designer fragrances go. This is almost like Alberto Morillas' greatest hits. Aqua de Joe is so huge that anytime Alberto Morillas' name gets brought up, it's automatically like, oh yeah, he did Aqua de Joe. Did you know that? Alberto is just constantly living in the shadow of Aqua de Joe because it's sold so much. It's just freaking everywhere. Aqua de Joe is to the late 90s, early 2000s as Drakkar Noir is to the 80s. By that I mean literally everybody was wearing it, including me. While the original Aqua de Joe is a bit dated nowadays, I mean it's been out for over 20 years and it's been worn extremely heavily for that entire amount of time. Those others that I mentioned, they're not as played out and they'll work just as well as Aqua de Joe did when it first came out. So Aqua de Joe slash the Aqua de Joe line, one of the biggest compliment pullers of all time. Next up, let's go with a more modern fragrance. It is a blue fragrance, so that right away lets you know it's versatile, attention-grabbing, compliment pulling, all that good stuff. And it is all of those things. Yeah, all of those things. It's Yves Saint Laurent Y Eau de Parfum. Now, kind of like Aqua de Joe, the Y line, big compliment pulling line of fragrances. So if that's what you're after, check them out. Y Eau de Toilette, the original, a little bit better for daytime use, a little bit better for office wear situations, things like that. Y Eau de Parfum, definitely better as far as night out situations, nighttime situations. And then Y Live is going to be more of your clubbing type scent. It's got a bit of that bubblegum sweetness in it. More of a youthful fragrance overall, not that Y Eau de Parfum is not. Then we have the summer Y Eau Fraiche, or the summer release Y Eau Fraiche. Of all of those though, Y Eau de Parfum is going to be the biggest compliment puller. Apple, sage, ginger, amberwood, bergamot. Some of the notes in the fragrance. Amberwood's heavily used in men's fragrances nowadays. Actually amber woody type notes used heavily. That's neither here nor there though. This fragrance has that sweetness from apple right off the bat. You get some effervescence from ginger, some briskness, and the fragrance just absolutely kills it in terms of attention. So if you're after attention, pick this one up. And let's go from one blue fragrance to another. Dior Savage. You probably already know about Dior Savage, right? Kind of preaching to the choir. Ambroxan, a lot of ambroxan. Bergamot, peppers, Sichuan pepper, black pepper, pink pepper. Those are some of the main notes in the fragrance. This one has a metallic kind of vibe in the opening from the ambroxan and the pepper and the bergamot. but it is just an enormous compliment puller, attention magnet, and that's what we're talking about. This one, and I'm talking about the Eau de Toilette specifically, has great projection off my skin and longevity. It's a very powerful fragrance. You don't need too much of it to get the job done. There's also the Eau de Parfum and the Parfum. Some people are going to prefer the Eau de Parfum because it's a little bit more refined than the Eau de Toilette, but as far as just nose assaulting, attention grabbing power, the Eau de Toilette is the way to go. But you already knew all of that, didn't you? Yeah, of course you did. Next up, fragrance from Yves Saint Laurent, made even more popular by Jeremy Fragrance. La Nuit de l'Homme. La Nuit de l'Homme is almost the quintessential cardamom fragrance as far as designer fragrances go. For most people, when they start getting into fragrances, if they don't know how a sweet, spicy take on cardamom smells, you can hand them La Nuit de l'Homme, have them spray it on and go like, you smell that sweet spiciness in there? That's cardamom. And then they'll be like, oh, cool, I got it now. Yeah. There's also lavender, cedar, and bergamot in there, but again, the cardamom is what really makes this fragrance. It's what everybody remembers from La Nuit de l'Homme. Huge date night fragrance, huge night out fragrance, which makes sense because La Nuit de l'Homme is the night of the man translated. So if it was a terrible, piss poor night out fragrance, that wouldn't be very good. La Nuit de l'Homme, one of the biggest date night fragrances designer-wise over the past couple of decades. Huge attention grabber. Now, one thing you will see sometimes online, people saying that vintage La Nuit de l'Homme is the only way to go. And if you can find a vintage bottle of La Nuit de l'Homme for a good price, scoop it up. But in general, for 99% of you out there, a vintage bottle of La Nuit de l'Homme is not going to be worth the markup, and you'd be better suited just getting a bottle from your local Sephora or from FragranceNet or Fragrance X or whoever you use. Next up, let's do a Chanel. We've done a Dior, we've done 2 Yves Saint Laurents, but no Chanel's yet, so let's change that with Allure Homme Sport. Just the original Allure Homme Sport. There's pepper, tonka, vanilla, orange, and C notes in this fragrance. It does get compared to Versace Pour Homme, and there is a similarity there. Versace Pour Homme, much more affordable, but overall, Chanel Allure Homme Sport, the nicer fragrance of the two. That being said, if you want a similar vibe with pretty much just as much compliment pulling power, then check out Versace Pour Homme. Now, Allure Homme Sport is going to be a fantastic all-around fragrance. This one is good during the day, during the night, on a date, to the office, casually with friends, whatever. It's a very versatile scent. So with this one, you do have freshness from those C notes, sweetness from the orange, and especially the tonka and vanilla as it dries down, warms up a bit in that dry down. Really, really, really good fragrance. Great all around, as I just said. The price on it going to be higher than most other designer fragrances because typically it's not very easy to find Chanel fragrances discounted. You can't really find them for, 50% off like you can a lot of other designer brands, but they're worth it. Chanel fragrances, as far as designers go, with their mainline designer scents, some of the highest quality ones you're ever gonna find. I forgot to bring this up while I was talking about La Nuit de l'Homme. If you like that fragrance, you want something with a similar sort of vibe, you could check out Riflesso by Trussardi. That one I've talked about on the channel in the past. It's actually really good, and a number of people that have smelled that actually prefer it to La Nuit de l'Homme. Next up, let's go to a fragrance from the house of Givenchy, and this fragrance does not get talked about anymore, which makes sense. It's been around for a while, but big compliment pulling fragrance, especially when it first came out, Pie. This one came out in 1998. Like I said, it's been out for a while now, and it was done by the same person that did Aqua de Joe, Alberto Morillas. That being said, this is completely different from Aqua de Joe. It's not the same type of scent at all. This one, very sweet. Vanilla, tonka, almond, benzoin, and mandarin orange. Some of the notes in this fragrance. And really you can just look at the bottle and the color of the fragrance inside there. That tells you a lot about the fragrance right there. Yeah, you do get that mandarin orange a bit in the opening, but pretty quickly this one segs into more of a sweet tooth, almost gourmandy type of scent at times with the tonka, the benzoin, the vanilla, and the almond. It's a great fall and wintertime fragrance, really nice evening fragrance, really shines in cool weather. This is another fragrance though that has been reformulated. If you can find one of the original formulations, much like La Nuit L'Homme, for a good price, scoop it up. If you can't, don't worry about it. If you're not the type of person that smelled this when it first came out or within the first few years that it was out, a new bottle is not gonna bother you. You're gonna think it smells awesome. If you were around wearing this in the late 90s, early 2000s, then a new bottle may not do it as much for you. You may smell it and be like, oh, it doesn't have as much depth or richness, it doesn't hit with as much power as it used to. All that being said, if you're not super familiar with the original formulation of Pi, don't worry about it, don't stress out about it, because the current formulation still smells really nice to me and to pretty much everybody that's gonna smell it, and the performance is still good enough to get the job done. Next up, let's talk about Carolina Herrera 212 VIP. Vodka, passion fruit, gin, spices, and mint. Some of the notes in the fragrance, so they're really hitting you with the booze here, vodka and gin both. Yeah, and that's really one of the things that they push in 212 fragrances. Things like alcohol notes or on occasion, cannabis notes. This one is sweet. It is boozy, like I mentioned. At times, it's got little bits of freshness in there, some aromatic pops. This one is a surprising compliment getter. If you've never really worn it, or if you've just smelled it in passing, you may not expect this one to be as big of a compliment puller as it is. At this point, in today's day and age, this fragrance is kind of an under the radar fragrance. It's got really good performance, great projection, great longevity, great night out type of scent as well. And it's a fragrance that absolutely kills it in fall and winter time. So I'm filming this right now in September. Here in the next month or so is gonna be prime weather for 212 VIP, if night outs actually existed right now. A lot of Carolina Herrera flankers don't really do it for me. A lot of them I think are so-so or just bad. But this one is really solid. 212 VIP, big attention grabber, great performance, great night out scent. The next one is one that at first glance you may not think of as a great compliment pulling fragrance. It is common. It's the type of scent you're gonna see all over the place. TJ Maxx, Ross's, Sephora, literally any place that sells designer fragrances, probably gonna have this, and it's not very expensive online either. It is Chrome by Azzaro, just the original Chrome. Lemon, rosemary, neroli, bergamot, and actually pineapple. Some of the notes in the fragrance. This one is more of just a fresh, clean type of scent. It's a really good warm weather, spring, summertime kind of fragrance. Because it is a fresh, clean, out of the shower kind of fragrance, it's got a lot of versatility because people just like smelling clean, and you're never going to offend anybody, so you can wear it pretty much anywhere. So some of you may think, well, Chrome is just so boring. It smells synthetic. It's, again, just a really cheap kind of clean, out of the shower scent, as I just mentioned. And yet, big compliment puller. There are so many people that have worn this over the years, and the reason that people keep buying it and keep wearing it and keep buying it and keep buying it is because they get great reactions back when they're wearing it. That's why Chrome is still around. That's why Chrome has so many different flankers. It's why it still has new flankers coming out every single freaking year, because people are still buying it and wearing it and getting great reactions. This is that type of fragrance that you wear when you just want to smell clean. You're not really trying to necessarily impress anyone from the complexity of your fragrance, but when people smell it, they like it. Next up at number 9, fragrance from the house of Giorgio Armani, Code. Yeah, just straight up Code. Although Code Profumo, Code Absolute Gold, and all the other countless Code flankers, good for compliments as well. This one has leather, star anise, tonka, and tobacco as some of the notes in the fragrance. And this one, as I just mentioned, spawned off so many flankers And that's because Code is enormously successful. And it's enormously successful because it's an awesome night out fragrance, date night fragrance, and cool weather fragrance. So you may say Aqua de Joe for spring and summer from Armani, and Code for fall and winter. And a lot of people actually do just that. Now for me personally, Code Absolute is my favorite of the bunch, of the entire line. That's the one that I would say that you should check out first. But as far as the fragrance that spawned off the line, the original Code, an enormous compliment pulling fragrance, one of the biggest of all time designer wise, and still being sold all over the place. Now, number 10 is a fragrance I don't particularly love, but as far as compliments, it's one of the tops, yeah. And it's had its DNA removed and placed into so many other different fragrances, so you probably know what it is. It's Invictus. Grapefruit, C notes, bay leaf, some of the notes in the fragrance. It's got that bubblegum sweetness, great daytime fragrance, great daytime fragrance, great casual fragrance, great club fragrance. But for me, just not one of my favorites. Invictus DNA can be found in almost every single designer house's fragrance lineup somewhere. They may not have a direct Invictus clone, but when you smell the fragrance, they've probably got at least one where you smell it and you go, yeah, it smells like Invictus has been here. And before we go, can I just bring up Drakkar Noir? Can I do that? Yeah, Drakkar Noir. Technically, I've already done 10, but I'm putting this in here too. Lavender, oak, moss, leather, fir, pine, some of the notes in the fragrance, but it's an 80s fragrance, so there's a whole bunch of notes, you know the drill. Yeah, Drakkar Noir is one of the best. I used to wear this when I was in 3rd grade, which was kind of awkward, but I did it anyway. Drakkar Noir is the scent of the 80s. If you think about the 80s, you think about Drakkar Noir, and that's because of how many people wore it. Why were they wearing it? Because of compliments. It was a masculine fragrance, and it's awesome. All right, guys, it's gonna do it for me. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for all your support. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.